Welcome back to the 2019 Great Give Radiothon on WNHH FM, your home for community radio at 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. We're doing a blowout, folks, Wednesday and Thursday all day long. We are visiting with people who help our great nonprofits in town run, because these are the days, 36 hours over Wednesday and Thursday, where we're getting thousands of people in New Haven to donate money in one central place for all these nonprofits. You get to pick and choose whose work you love, whose work you want to support, and they coming on the air here one by one to tell us what they're up to. Here's how you do it, folks. thegreatgive.org. You don't forget the word the. thegreatgive.org. You go there, and you can look up any group you want. For instance, you can look up the New Haven Independent. You give money to this radio station, WNHH, the Valley Independent, or New Haven Independent. There are over 406 groups in all. In this half hour, we're meeting with a wonderful group called Site Projects, SITE. Laura Clark is in the studio. Good afternoon, Laura. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. Is this a
You're
good
doing great.
distance to the
great.
microphone?
You have a perfect distance to the microphone.
Perfect.
Some people it takes 3 or 4 tries, but you got it on the first.
I've done this before.
Yes, I could tell. So, Laura, what is Site Projects up to these days?
Well, let me start by saying that we, in a place long ago and far away, long distant, when I was a little girl, we used to really have fun with limericks. And
yes, those were fun as kids.
yeah,
That get
you
the
could
joy of
remember them
poetry.
very well. My favorite.
Ogden Nash.
Oh, yes, Bennett Cerf.
Yep.
And we could say things like, what a wonderful bird is the pelican. His beak can hold more than his belly can. He can hold in his beak enough food for a week. And I don't know how in the hell he can.
Whose is that?
Which that's what one my father taught me.
Whoa.
And, you know, limericks go back to the 1820s and 30s. So in a meeting with some members of the Board of Site Project, trying to figure out how to get people more interested in public art in New Haven, we decided to have an informal limerick contest, public art in New Haven in limericks. And I'm going to read the outstanding winner. Is it a half-eaten panini or a bright red revealing bikini? An eye-catching montage on a parking garage, 4 circles and a square by Verini.
Ooh, so we're talking about that alley right behind Kitchen Zinc.
Absolutely.
I love that piece.
That's a good
That
piece.
was you guys.
That's us. Nobody
That's
ever
Site
knows
Projects.
it.
I'm sorry, it's true.
You know,
I forgot, even though we wrote the article, even though it said Site Projects, I forgot that wonderful display that you see as you walk down the alley past Kitchen Zinc toward the Temple Street, Crown Street Garage is you guys, and it looks different from you looking from different places. That was a game changer.
Right. Oh, it's fabulous. I ran into George Zadru, who owns the building when you're looking at
Yep.
it on the left side, and he
Yeah.
said, I look down there all the time. He said, my guess is over 1 million people have walked in there, turned around, looked, and started trying to figure out what it is.
So, Laura, we're talking about putting art in public spaces and not just slapping it up, but thinking about what it looks like in context of where it is. What
Right.
it looks like to put it on a garage, what it looks like to put a banner up, what it looks like to go under a highway underpass, and what does it mean to put art there? And what is different about that if we don't think of art as just something you hang in a museum?
Well, first off, public art is it's gotten so popular in the last 10 or 15 years, but we're now in our 15th year of commissioning public art for New Haven. And the idea of public art is it's art in public spaces for everybody.
It's democratic.
Right. Meaning, and what the challenge we gave ourselves at the beginning was to create something that a kid from the most underserved neighborhood walking by with his abuela and the MFAs from the local colleges and universities, they could all come and see something that spoke to what they were interested
And
in.
understand what's up.
Yeah, and see it for what they can take out of it. And so the erector set boats in the canal in 2007 by the Slovenian architect Matej Vogrinčić. I was there when, again, a small kid came with his abuela, and he told me he was showing it to her because his grandfather had worked in the manufacturing plant for erector sets. And boy, I was just thrilled. When that works, you just think this is worth doing again.
And why is it important? So you're talking about so that people can, different walks of life can understand, appreciate, and connect to art. Why is it important? What role does art play in our community when it's out there for everybody to see?
Well, think about it. Let me preface this by saying we now are, the first generation is now in college, I think they say, where they were advertised everywhere from every surface, from the paper on the doctor's examining chair had advertisements on it. Everything did. And public art has no agenda other than to engage people.
Sometimes there's a message agenda that isn't commerce.
That it's not commerce.
But like
it's
think
not,
of the lipstick tank in the Yale Residential College. I mean, that's a message in there.
There's a message. Ours are not political. They're not religious. They're not commercial, but they're designed to bring people together. So if you...
How about to challenge people?
The what?
And also the
well,
challenge.
we always have handicap accessible sites. We have not yet...
No, I meant the art that challenges people, not just bring us. Part of bringing us together is to re-examine our preconceptions of our world.
Well, so you can look at the Verini artwork and you can find it interesting and delightful, and in a way it's interactive because what you see changes as you move. And you don't have to know that anamorphosis in art was what Renaissance artists were trying to get away from. They were trying to figure out how to paint on a two-dimensional plane, width and height and flat, and make it look deep three-dimensional. Anamorphosis is about the opposite thing. It's about creating taking deep three-dimensional space, and when you look at it from one point, it forms in midfield an optical illusion that looks as if it is two-dimensional. And I mean, I've shown pictures of it to people and they say, where did you hang it from? And so, you could know that anamorphosis is the basis of an MRI. You could know those things, but you don't have to. And the same thing is true with the night rainbow off the top of East Rock Park. So we put that up for the 375th birthday of the city of New Haven. And we called it East Rock Park, the birthday cake, and the night rainbow, the candles. And that piece flowed over the green, over West Haven, and over the Sound. And it was so beautiful that John DeStefano said he thought that 500,000 people had seen it, people driving on both ways on 95 and both ways on 91. The exit lane off of 91 was so long that traffic was backed up into the non-exit lanes on the highway. And people just came out to see it. And you don't have to know about high specification lasers or the sequence of colors in the rainbow to go out and see that thing changing from where you saw it. So we do site-specific stuff. It is site-specific to New Haven, and that means it can, like Verini's square with 4 circles, the square there references the town green. Mm-hmm. And because Felice Verini loved New Haven, he said, this is a very European city, and because it's so dense around the green. And the more abstract night rainbow was for the birthday, for the 375th birthday. And incidentally, people loved it so much, and they said, leave it. It's got to be there. We've got to keep looking at it. And I said, we were able to raise the money for 4 nights and not 5 nights. And we can't leave it because We pay a lot in insurance for these things. If somebody will take over all that stuff, we can leave it.
All right, let's talk about who you are. Site specific, it's SITE, Site
Yes.
Projects. We're talking to Laura Clark. The organization does great work making us have a richer artistic environment, public art. We're talking about it on the Great Give 2019 Great Give Radiothon here on WNHH FM, where you have the chance to support the work that organizations like Laura's do to keep us a vibrant community that we love to live in. And the way you do it is you go to thegreatgive.org. Don't forget the word thegreatgive.org. And you can look up 406 different nonprofits that do great work in New Haven and give money to them in this half hour. We're suggesting that you pony up for Site Projects. Laura, you say you've been around 15 years. Were you the founder of the group?
I was a co-founder of the group, and there were two really important original ideas. Back 15 years ago.
How did it happen? How did this get started?
I wanted to do a sound and light show on the New Haven Green. And I had thought about it for years, and I figured that it was not possible because the distances between the buildings were such that you couldn't project across that like I had seen in Europe that I thought was so much fun. But somebody said we should go to the Museum of Contemporary Arts in Boston because they're doing light sculptures and they're doing brilliant things for $15,000 and $20,000. And so a friend of mine, Betsy Dunham, and I went to Boston, talked to the people, came back and said, let's put a group together. So at that time, Paul, there were two things that were really important on people's minds, and it's kind of hard sometimes to remember how much New Haven has changed in the last 15 and 20.
It's dramatic.
It's amazing.
It was already a great place, but in terms of the amount of fun, culture, and art stuff that happens here.
And so our idea was that we wanted to put something that was temporary because we felt that people actually had quit looking. We have some really good permanent public art here, like the Alexander Lieberman in Federal Plaza, but we think people quit looking at things like that after about 10 years. They just walk by it. We wanted to put in something temporary, and we wanted to put in something that would bring people from all over the city and the suburbs into the center of New Haven at night.
So who are we?
So this group became, we put a group together that included Susan Smith from Creative Arts Workshop, Paul Ha from the Yale University Art Museum, Helen Cowder from Art Space.
What was your background in art?
I have an architecture degree and worked for many years in historic preservation. And so I'm really interested in public space and in how you can change public space. And I just think it's so important for people to come together. When people come together in the same space and there's no message that they all have to believe, they just have to be entertained or not. And if they're not entertained or engaged, they can walk away. But they're all there together, and it's really important for a community for that to happen as often as possible.
I feel New Haven is all public art. I just feel like I live in a more interesting place. It's like if you're walking around just wearing a drab piece of clothing all the time. If you have something colorful or interestingly designed, there's more character to what you're doing. Yeah,
absolutely.
So tell me about highway underpasses? So New Haven got
carved
up by highways, interstates 91 and 95 in the 50s, and some neighbors got disconnected. For instance, Jocelyn Square and Upper State Street, and then other places became forbidding to walk through. You come from the train station, you go under the Route 34 bridge there. If I'm not mistaken, Site Projects, the group you run, Laura Clark, has been trying to reclaim some of those spaces?
Absolutely. So we sit around periodically and we say, where in New Haven could a piece of public art make the biggest difference to people living in our city or coming through our city? And we were really excited about the idea of doing public art in the underpass of Route 34 between the train station and the Knights of Columbus Museum. And we thought about it, and I just said, there's nobody who could do this better than Sheila de Bretteville?
She is really fun. She's the one who put those sidewalk
The
plaques
stars.
in Nice Square of
Yeah.
real people who lived and worked in Nice
Yeah.
Square in the old days.
And she did a light project in the entrance of Hill House High School. And she's done this kind of art all over the world. She's a real star in public art. And when we went to her, she said, I'd love to do it. And the reason we thought about her is that Sheila has been at the Yale School of Art for like 20, 25 years. And she always walks. You can see her walking to and from the train station. So we knew that she would have thoughts about this. And she said she had already been thinking about it for a while, knowing that it needed to be done. And she already had developed some ideas. And I said, that's great. At that point, Kelly Murphy was head of economic development, and we were given to understand that we would get some big money from the state for public art. It didn't happen. New Haven got zero money, but we had put this project out there as a wonderful project. And Karen Gilvard came back to me, then head of planning, a couple of years later and said, we would like to know if it would be okay to include the Sheila Public Art installation in the plans for the Downtown Crossing Phase 2.
That's a good idea, and that's that we're remaking all the way from where the Coliseum used to be to where the train station is, to where the Bell Medical Complex is, to where Church Street South got taken down as a whole vision for reviving that area, and that's a gateway to it.
Absolutely, and we said we would be delighted. We'll ask the artist. I'm sure she would be delighted.
Do you think we could ever get rid of that underpass? I'm getting rid of the rest of the road there. What would happen if
No, we won't be able to get. Remember, in Downtown Crossings Phase 2, the overpass is going to go down to Orange Street, and Orange Street's going to cut across it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that it's not possible to get rid of that overpass, and it is possible to think of it, as you said, as a gateway.
Yeah.
It is.
Now, why can't we get rid of it?
Because it's such an important exit off of 91 coming into the city.
And you can't just dump it into a small
You
street.
can't just dump all those people before that onto the street.
Okay.
But the interesting thing about it, when we found out, so we got so excited, we thought, 2017, we're going to get this thing in. And honestly, when this goes in, the art cred of New Haven on the world global market the force is going to be moved by this, because getting a state DOT in almost any state in the union to say yes to an art installation that is embedded in the structure of the bridge is almost impossible. They now will approve murals and hang lights, but this was very different. And the fact that they approved this is monumental. And it was approved in Downtown Crossings as a pedestrian amenity in public art to create lighting under the overpass. And so the construction on Downtown Crossings Phase 2 is starting in May, and they'll be starting, we don't know where in all of that work that they're doing, the construction of this little part will be happening, but Mike Piscatelli assures me that for our September 15th gala at the Canal Dock Boathouse to celebrate this important piece of New Haven history and public art, he said, we'll be okay. So that.
What is the installation? What is it going to be under?
Well, it is, I'll tell you about it. So if you have ever walked under there, I'm sure you have.
Yes.
There's a sloped concrete
where
pavers.
Sleep under there.
Pink, awful. The pigeons mess it up, and the pigeons live up there. And water from the roadbed above has drained onto it until recently, and then it drains onto the sidewalk. And when it's freezing weather, it means there's ice on the sidewalk.
You just made it sound more artistically interesting than I've ever noticed. All the different natural combinations, from the pigeons to the leaks, that make it a different design.
Yes, we think so too. So in 2017, when we realized we were not going to have an earth-shaking project and we were going to be left with nothing for the year, we decided to do high school students, public art fellows in that space, making art that responds to the history or the place of that. I mean, if you go in there and go up to the top, it's like a reverb chamber. It's amazing. And the bridge itself, when it was put in 1959, was published in engineering magazines around the country because it was the longest steel box frame bridge at that point in America. So, and the thing that we knew by then, because my friend Robert Greenberg, who is doing an exhibit on New Haven history, and I said, Robert, what can we do to get kids to think it's interesting under there? And he said, well, it is the oldest commercial site in New Haven. And I said, that's it, we've got it. So if you go to Site Projects, if you go to Vimeo/Site Projects, you can find a film called Final Path, Public Art Fellows 17, and you can see the coolest kids dancing in there, spoken word, jazz.
And we're going to be able to see a permanent exhibit there.
And this was what we did this last year.
You've had people doing comics on
right.
buildings. Tell us real quick as we run out of time.
What? So we're asking for the Great Give to support this project, the Public Art Fellows, it's a summer project of kids doing things about public art and public places in New Haven.
So making comics, right?
Well, this past summer we made comics, and they are brilliant.
I've seen them on College Street and Crown.
Those were the two that were about the Verini, and they're so much fun. And this next summer we're going to do something we call the Video Arts Boot Camp, and we're going to have kids doing movies about roads, rivers, and rails.
Well, that sounds
roads, rivers, roads, and rails, so that we can show it on September 15th.
That sounds great, Laura Clark.
Yes, thank you, Paul
You're up
Bass.
to a lot of good stuff.
Thank you.
That's Site Projects, folks, and that's Site SITE.
15th anniversary this year.
15th anniversary, and let's have them go strong by ponying up a little money here on the Great Give. You listen to the Great Give Radiothon 2019 edition. If you go to thegreatgive.org, check out Site Projects among other great groups and throw in some change. Laura Clark, what a pleasure to meet with you today.
Thank you. Thank you
folks,
very much.
So, folks, why don't you hold tight at the top of the hour? We'll be back with the Great Give Radiothon going strong with Neighborhood Music School here on WNHH FM.